Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me okay. My name is Jez Pigden. I'm the Deputy President of GATCO, the Guild of Air Traffic Control Officers. As most of you know, BALPA, the British Airline Pilot Association, and GATCO have built up a close working relationship over the last few years, collaborating and supporting each other in many areas through regular meetings, creation of joint policy documents and position papers, giving evidence to the House of Commons Select Committees, meetings with the DFT and CAA, as well as linking up with our international connections in IFALPA, IFACA and the ECA. Over the last couple of years, we have together hosted a symposium event with a wide range of speakers covering covering many subjects of interest to pilots and controllers. Now, obviously, COVID has meant that a physical symposium could not happen this year, so we've decided to run 5 90-minute sessions during November, each focusing on a key subject. The first covered the future of air navigation services, and the second, the controller-pilot interface. Today's webinar will be presented by a good friend of GATCO, David Garcia. David is an operational air traffic controller who's previously worked as a tower controller in Alicante and a TMA controller in Galicia. He's currently working as an en route OJTI senior instructor, supervisor, and assessor at Barcelona ACC. Over the last few years, he's focused on human performance and stress management in particular, seeing them as keys to well-being and safety in ATC. He's also an accredited human factors practitioner by Eurocontrol, a certified mindfulness-based stress reduction instructor, TRM facilitator, CISM peer, and regional coordinator. During the presentation, myself and my colleagues from GATCO, Dr. Luis Barbero and Tom Harrison, will collate your questions. I'll put them to David after his presentation is finished. If possible, please use the chat function of the WebEx software to post any questions you may have. If any similar questions come in, we'll try to combine them into similar questions, so apologies in advance if your exact question doesn't appear to have been asked. We'll do our best to capture the essence of all the questions. A few basic rules, please. Hopefully to make the event run more smoothly, would everyone put themselves on mute and switch off their videos so that just the presenter and the host will appear on your screen. In order to view their presentations, put your WebEx in speaker view and you'll get a full screen video of the presenter and their slides. Switching off video will also help to prevent any problems with bandwidth on your internet connection so the presentations will run smoothly. Please be aware the event is being recorded for future distribution. So with no more further ado, I'll hand over to David for his presentation entitled Mindfulness, Wellbeing and Peer Support. David. David, I think you're still muted.
There we go. There we go. Okay. You see the first screen. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Yes. And I'll to make it short and painless. First is first, as Jedo said, this is me, David Garcia. I'm an operational ACO. So what I'm going to tell you is what I've experienced in the ops room. I'm here to tell you I'm an active operative ATCO, but why I'm here is because I had an interesting experience with stress. Apart of being a TRM facilitator and critical incident stress and accredited human factors, what made me change my route was an interesting experience with the stress, like 5 or 6 years ago, and I think it's interesting that I tell you because it makes easier to send rest. In June 2015, more or less, I think it was a Saturday morning. Well, I was working in a departure sector from Mallorca, and well, it was any other early morning shift. Lots of traffic because of the season, and well, nothing really to freak out, but quite busy. surprisingly, that day I ended my shift at emergencies. Well, the point is that I wasn't feeling anything special. I was not aware at all that anything was happening to me. And it was my planner who brought up the thing, who raised the thing, like, are you okay? And I say, well, yes. No, no, you're not, David. No, why not? I mean, am I doing it wrong? No, no, you're doing it wrong, but it's not your voice, it's not your energy. Why don't you take a break? Why don't we switch? Okay, so okay. So he took over, and I was astonished that I couldn't, I barely could stand up. So I said, you know what, maybe you're right. Huh? So I went to the doctor as soon as possible. And well, fortunately, nothing happened. But the doctor told me that my body was exhausted and autonomously decided to switch off to rest while I was controlling planes. So yes, that's pretty inconvenient time. And then I was at emergencies, and he was telling me to rest a couple of days, and there was me complaining that I couldn't because I got to do a lot of things. I had to go that afternoon to the course at the airport, and tomorrow, blah blah blah. And he was staring at me, astonished, say, with a mix of, I don't know, pity and or sympathy. I don't know, like saying, but have you seen where you are, Paul? I mean, in a hospital box with that green bone, open behind. And well, the point here is how absolutely unaware, how disconnected of my I was. Following this enlightening episode of stress, I started to practice and study mindfulness-based stress reduction. By this doctor recommendation, he said, okay, you do this. I mean, we do it. It's very common in the hospitalary environment. And today, I must say, mindfulness-based stress reduction teacher and certified by International Mindfulness Teacher Association and so on, because I've tried to do it well, to learn it properly, because otherwise it doesn't work. As a instructor, I've been totally focused on human performance and stress management in particular as keys to well-being and safety in ATM, because only with well-being at work we can give our best in a continuous way and ensure the desired safety levels too. So I think that no matter what technology will in the future, humans will remain in the center of the operation for at least the next 20 or 30 years. So better we take care of ourselves, because the first line professionals are key to success of the whole system. And well, I said this as an introduction, and let's go. When along this crisis, this COVID crisis, I saw everyone is already recommending mindfulness as a tool during this pandemic. And it was not, I mean, I found it perfectly normal. It was not a surprise because, well, it was a nice surprise that IFATCA does it in its guidance material, coping with COVID-19, or a short guide on dealing with stress, where mindfulness is the main tool, along with yoga and other relaxation techniques. And also this Eurocontrol managing stress in ATM is a very recent guide, very recently released guide in March 2020, I think. And I have to say that it is the best material I've read to the date, and I've read a lot. It's a must as a consultation material on stress, and many of the slides I'll show you come from this guide. It is perfectly summarized and organized. So credits to Paola Tomasello and from Deep Blue and my friend Fabrice Trohul for that, because it's really a great piece of work. And also mindfulness is being recommended at the Iberia Operations Manual, along with cockpit resource management or critical incident stress management to deal with stress. And is for years that the United Kingdom Health Service is using it. and is recommending it now in its 10 tips to help if you are worried about coronavirus in its web, so you can search for it. Okay, so, and in England, it's particularly popular because in 2015, they released a document made by the all-party parliamentary group on mindfulness. So they create a group to search during 1 year, to search actively if it was true, the effects, and which programs were better. So in England, is quite advanced, this thing, and you can check later. Yeah, here is the sentence that in years to come, we'll be talking about mindfulness as we talk about exercise now, and I think it's true. It's the director of Goldman Sachs, so he's not suspicious of being a woo-woo gypsy. But let's carry on. The World Health Organization estimated that by 2020, stress would be the first cause of by itself or its related illness. Of course, they didn't count on coronavirus, but anyway, according to the American Institute of Stress, 77% of population experience stress that affects their physical health, and 33% is feeling extreme stress. Wow. 48% have trouble sleeping because of stress. Does it sound familiar to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning? So stress is quite an issue that must be taken into account. Talking about United Kingdom, the Mental Health Foundation reported that 74% of adults have felt so stressed at some point over the last year that they felt overwhelmed or unable to cope with it. So it's very similar to the 77% of the Americans. So we are very similar as human beings. 32% of adults say that had experienced suicidal feelings as a result of stress. 2%. And that was in 2018. It would be interesting to know this report now with COVID. They have done something similar at the United Kingdom Office for National Statistics during 2019, and almost 40% of all the population is reporting high anxiety levels. Yeah. The survey for depression found it doubled. And the recent McKinsey report on well-being in Europe says it's now at its lowest for the last 40 years. So stress is quite an issue that must be taken into account. And COVID-19 has affected us at all levels. Health, increased fatigue with COVID, of course, economical and professional uncertainty, especially for those in the ATM. I'm thinking about pilots now, grounded pilots, that they are dreaming of flying. I mean, it's and the economical uncertainty. It's very harmful. And coping strategies we used to do, like going out and engage with social, or sport, or go to or traveling, are not possible anymore. So loneliness and loss of social connections because of lockdown is very harmful too. And fear for oneself or family members. Fear is one of the most immunosuppressive feelings. We've seen extreme financial pressure, reduced traffic workload, but longer shifts, and bringing the real possibility of slackness, new procedures all the time, changing procedures, de-skilling, the management pressure. And we must keep in mind that shift work already produces a circadian disruption and sleep deprivation and stress by itself. So these three factors, also with the COVID-19 effects have known effects on immunity, which could impair the ability of shift workers, say traffic or pilots and so on, to fight against different types of infectious diseases, including this COVID-19. Okay, so I want you to keep in mind is stress is a serious issue. That fear is the most immunosuppressive emotion that we have, especially fear and stress. And let's carry on with it. I don't want to make let's know something about stress very quickly. I'll probably talk about things that you already know, but it's important to point out some ideas here. Okay, what's stress? According to the Eurocontrol managing stress in ATM guidance material, it's a process by which certain work demands evoke and a process in which perceived demands exceed resources and result in undesirable physiological, emotion, cognitive, and behavioral changes. Actually, this Eurocontrol's definition because it's one of the best definitions I've ever heard. And I say I've heard a lot. So credits again to Paul and Ferry. And I like it very much because we can see that we depend on a stimulus that triggers a reaction that we know as flight or fight response. It's the silly general adaptation syndrome. Okay, the flight or fight. But it says that it is perceived. So it's the perception of the demand exceeding our perception of our resources. Okay, it has not to be real. It's just the perception what it triggers the reaction. Okay, and so it is absolutely subjective and variable from one person to another, and even for the same person, it's times of the same day. It's important to say that our brain is like a super simulator. It doesn't make any difference between past, present, future, real, or imaginary. Our brain reacts to what we project on that screen and, which is important, drags the body with it, releasing all the chemicals to prepare the body for that what you're presenting on that screen. So whether it's good, like thinking of your special friend, or bad, as something you regret in the past, or you hate in the future, or fear, or whatever. So it is perceived, it has not to be real, and it drags the body with it. And they say that it is undesirable, and yes, in our context. That the stress response we have by default is an evolutionary emergency mode against any threat. And we have only that one since the last, 60,000, 70,000 years. It's the emergency modes we have for any emergency. It was great to save us from a lion, an explosive flight or fight reaction to ensure our survival in the short term. But and of course, in that reaction, you give it all. You use all your energy, all of your resources, everything, because it's a life or death situation for your body. But it's important to know this is the one, and it doesn't apply today. Because anything perceived as a threat is going to trigger it, including your mother-in-law, or a traffic jam because we're late, or our kids' demand in the evening, or our ex, or an email, or a WhatsApp message, or there is no Wi-Fi, or the next day talk you have to give. So let's check very quickly the stress signals. There is a book, or there's books about it, but there is one called like the 100 symptoms of stress. So stress really can make anything to your body. And I wrote it here. The more stressed you are, the less in control of the situation. And we will see why. These are some slides of the Eurocontrol Management Guide and the Stress Management Guide. And it's, well, they divide between, punctual, just one episode of stress, acute stress, and chronic stress. So the stress is the same. The only point is that for an acute episode, we can recover. And from chronic stress, it takes longer because the body is exhausted and your health is compromised. These are the more frequent symptoms, but there are, I tell you, there are hundreds, literally. What happens in the body? Why that endless list of symptoms? We have said upon a perceived threat, here's our flight or fight mechanism, and a multitude of hormones and chemicals enter the bloodstream, like cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, endorphins, and lots of the glutamate, insulin, which contribute to an explosive flight or fight reaction to ensure our survival. The heart starts pumping, blood pressure rises up, blood goes to arms and legs to run and fight for your life, canceling all the non-beat processes like digestion, reproduction, or the immune system. Who cares of a flu the next week or a cancer the next year if you are going to die today? Okay? And that metabolic alteration is the problem in the long run. And also your mind. I mean, there is time to think. It is an emergency. So the blood and nutrients literally leave the cortex to go to the most primitive reptilian brain, who is in control now. So we're not able to think or analyze, or even to see sometimes or hear. So the extreme version of that is called the amygdala hijack, which are literally out of service for our duty, for our jobs. Okay, it also alters sugar and fat metabolism to get the most energy. And just remember, it's our emergency mode. None of our daily threats can be solved by running or fighting. So it's very rare. And especially in a real emergency in our jobs, because we need to keep thinking. We need to remember procedures and master ourselves instead of being dragged by the body. Yeah, I have to approve. Sorry, there was someone wanting to copy. I must recover the presentation. Okay, so there we go. These are different signals. It's not only physiological, but behavioral and also emotional, because it alters all your functioning and dragged by the emergency mode. You have to save your life. Okay. Chronic stress could be defined as living in a constant emergency mode. Don't worry about taking notes, because this is all in the Eurocontrol document. So you can download it later from Discovery, or we can share it by the email. The point is that stress, as it is to survive, it's draining all your energy and resources until it can compromise your health. That's chronic stress, because you live in a permanent activation of that emergency mode. You don't recover. And consequences are not only for the body, because when stressed, we are defensive and not especially friendly or patient, and we're typically selfish because we have no time for others. We have to protect ourselves. So we have no time for kidding. So we feel we must keep on doing things, okay? And also the body is demanding things to maintain that super energy mode. I mean, things like pizza, smoking, beer. Curiously, no one appears to steal water after a peak of traffic or a crazy afternoon with stormy weather. No one says, okay, I will Still water and some fresh lettuce, please. Now, your body is asking for more sugar, more carbohydrates, and more things to maintain the ball going. Okay, so be aware that it not only alters your behavior and your body by symptoms, also your metabolism. I mean, it's changing what you need. And it alters also the dopamine receptors, the pleasure receptors in brain to demand the things your body thinks you need to eat to maintain it. Okay? Creating more stress derived from bad coping strategies, because the problems are still the morning after and the next week. So if you don't take care of your body now, you're going to have less energy. So every threat is going to appear bigger because you will have less resources to cope with it. Okay. Well, these are signals. So also operational. From the operational point of view, it's a serious issue. EASA cites up to 11 operational risks related to stress, and in its easy access rules for 373 regulation. Depending on the edition, you can find it at page 1905 or 381. Okay, so let's wrap up here. It's a perception or an interpretation of a threat. It is an automatic reaction. It drags the body with it. And the more stressed you are, the less in control of the situation, in control of your body, of your life in general. So unless you stop it, or unless you can get off the reaction, you're going to have problems. Okay, and here's where mindfulness can help us to do it. Yeah. We're almost there. I'll speak about mindfulness in a moment. But first, we have to say a couple of things more. Okay, are we in control? Pilots and controllers, we're supposed to be always in control of the situation. So are we in control here? Well, I have to tell you about some studies. The first one, more than 30% of the time, our mind is wandering. That's Dan Gilbert's Harvard University. And usually to a worse place. This is from the study Wandering Mind, Unhappy Mind. Okay? So that means that you can be having dinner with that special person, and instead of enjoying it, you're reliving the argument you had at the office or worried about the talk you have to give tomorrow. And that is what determines how you are feeling during the dinner. Remember that it's what you project on that screen that determines what the body does. So you can be with that special person and you're absolutely missing the dinner, and even you can spoil or ruin the dinner because you are reacting to what you think. Okay. Remember, we have no distinction between past, present, future, real, or image. So be careful what we project on that screen. Dragging the body with it. It drags the body with it, so be careful again. Adults, there are studies that says that we have about 60 or 70,000 thoughts per day. Well, I don't really care about the exact number. The point is that most of them are negative, repetitive, and automatic in the same situations, and while doing the same things automatically. And most of them are to regret things about the past or to worry about the future. Wow. And it works like Google. Our brain filters like 97% of things and only give you the 3% that things that interest you. So if you are looking for mushrooms, you find mushrooms. If you are looking for bears to hunt, you find bears. If you're looking for threats, you find threats. If you're looking for fears, you find fears. It's interesting. Have you realized when you buy a new car that everybody gets the same? That's not a signal of the universe. It's how we are made. It's how we work. Again, Well, what you project in your mind. Okay, and researchers at Cornell University estimated that an average human adult makes like 35 decisions a day. So that's about 2,000 decisions per hour. But maybe pilots or controllers do like 5,000. Each decision, of course, carries certain consequences with it that can be good or bad. I mean, but I don't care about the exact number. But, and here comes the funny stuff, only 5% those decisions are conscious. Now, who makes the other 95%? That is determine how we live our present and future. It would be very nice if we could get into that software and hack and maybe figure that, isn't it? So that's what mindfulness is for. I promise I'm finishing with the boring part. So this is how we are made. I tell you who makes the 95% decision is your default mode neural net. Your default mode neural net is where the idea of the ego is where it's me. It's me, mine, us. Is the house of the ego. It's where the learning is stored by acquired conditionings and patterns, by education, childhood experiences, environmental influence, and it's related to survival, linked with the stress response. Okay, and also with in life, because it's another way of protecting yourself to earn money enough to support your family and so on. So always looking for threats and solutions, trying to anticipate any harm or loss. And we need it. I mean, it's the entire operating system that makes you to be you, trying to protect yourself and your people. It's meant for action, and it's what the most of the time in our lives is where we live, in that default mode. Like, it's the mind to achieve. It's the mind things done. Okay, it's the we need to control planes or to fly planes, to pilot, or just trying to land with a crosswind. Okay, there is an obvious threat there, and it's okay. But it's also the monkey mind. It's always going to the past to regress things, or sorrow, to the future to worry about. This is the net that goes back and forward all the time. This is the mind that wanders the 30% of the time. So just threats and potential problems all the time to solve in advance. Is that voice chattering all the time, okay? Is the human doing instead of the being. Who is the human being? Okay, the central executive net. That net is linked with the direct experience, with the joy. Is the mindful mind. Is the relaxing creativity, the affection, the rest, the nourishing. Okay, this would be the human being, the one when you're relaxed, when everything is achieved and you can enjoy and relax and celebrate, safe and sound. And also is the one who rules maintenance mode, recovery, immune system working properly. Okay, and we need both. They have two workers. The default mode is linked to the sympathetic system, responsible for boosting and sustaining this action mode, including the emergencies. And the other one relies on the parasympathetic system, which is the resting and recovery mode, which is so known as feed and breathe, rest and digest. The point is when we need both. The point is when you're not able to switch from one to another and you wake up at 4 a.m. with trying to solve things in your bed. Or, and as I said, you cannot fix a car while it's moving. So you have to stop the car in order to do the maintenance. And that's what we have to learn to do. And that's what mindfulness is for. Okay? Ideally, we should be able to stop or switch the nervous system in we are, or the neural net in we are. That's what we try to do with smoking and alcohol and having fun and by distracting all the time. But those coping probably generate more problems in the long term. So we have to learn another one. Okay, so we'll go towards mindfulness. At last, David, thank you. Here we are. What is mindfulness? First of all, I would like to start by saying what is not. Okay, mindfulness is not only relaxation or a trance-like state or a trip away from reality. It's not controlling our breath in a certain way, and definitely it's not living the mindless, as people think. Okay, that's almost impossible. It's not a new age woo-woo thing, and in our context, it doesn't have any religious or esoteric component at all. Okay, originally, it comes from the English translation of the ancient Pali word sati, that means full attention. And it refers the human innate ability of self-consciousness. We are mindful at first when we're born, and we slightly lose it, our default grows or develops. I like very much this definition by John Kabat-Zinn, which is also the widely accepted definition and in the practitioner and academic literature. Okay, and say that mindfulness, being aware of what's happening in the present moment in the body and external environment, with an attitude of curiosity, kindness, and non-judgmental openness to experience. And in other words, is to be able to observe what's going on inside or outside without being involuntarily distracted by the experience, without immediately having an opinion and reacting to that opinion accordingly to whatever thought or emotion or impulse we have, because we are not in control. It's very important to note that it is not I don't care. It's not being numb. It's simply not going mad with anything that occurs to you. Okay, it's to stop your default mode from being the boss, to take control again, to take back the reins of your life. Okay, and what we do is training our attention to keep focus on what we want, not what my monkey mind says is important and I have to do or focus on. No. It's to be able to leave whatever the monkey mind is saying in the background, or any distraction, or the mind chattering, or an obsessive thought, or something really that produces a lot of anger, or whatever, background, and keep operating and keep in control. How we train that? Well, there are many exercises, but typically you start observing your breath to train, to bringing back your attention to something, like your breath in this case. Doing a progressive relaxation, like the ones mentioned in the Eurocontrol Stress Management Guide, or much better, of course, with a teacher or a formal audio of a certified instructor, because this has to be done properly. I mean, it's very simple, but it's not easy to learn to do it properly, and it requires discipline and training, like any other training, like running or Pilates or whatever. So if we practice in time to focus our attention, to bring our attention back every time it wanders, you master your attention. So you may be open to sounds, to sensations, emotions, thoughts, the things happening, until you are able to maintain a total awareness without losing focus, without being dragged for whatever. This way you really experience that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes your thoughts. Okay, so you break the habit of following any impulse, like if it was real. Remember what our mind does. Okay, stop believing that anything you think is the truth. So you break the habit of being yourself, really. Of course, this is easier to say or to tell than to do. And that's why it is a formal training. It's an 8 weeks training or a lifetime training, like running or Pilates or whatever, or swimming. I mean, you need to practice it, preferably with a good instructor and in a good and validated program. Okay, what's mindfulness-based stress reduction? This is a program, a particular one, meant for stress. This is the Eurocontrol management guide too. And they recommend it and they explain, they do a brief short explanation. So it's the program I do and the one we have done in Barcelona, and I'll tell you about this in a moment. And it's mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's meant for stress, particularly. It was developed by John Kabat-Zinn, a biologist and self-meditator, who founded this stress reduction clinic at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center. In 79, it's been improving for 30 years. It was developed in a hospital context. It was scientifically tested from the very beginning. It was monitored from the very beginning. And so most of the studies and scientific papers talking about the benefits of mindfulness that you can find in the internet are over this program. And it's also the inspiration of many programs that came later in the 2000 when they opened the doors at Massachusetts Medical School. So it's also recommended by Eurocontrol and is the reference program in this mindfulness stress reduction. It's an 8 week with 8 sessions, 2 hours and a half, combining Zen and Vipassana meditative practices, light yoga exercise, and classical cognitive behavioral tools, like the conventional psychoeducational interventions in hospitals for people with cancer and so on, to learn how to face the stressful situations without engaging again and adapt to current society. It's not a therapy. There is no diagnosis, no treatment proposed. It just gives you the tools to master yourself. And the ultimate purpose will be to respond consciously to life instead of reacting to it. The program is important. The program you choose is important because anything that catches on normally spreads to a multitude of practices and programs and so on that have little to do with it and with poor impact, creating frustration and disappointment. So it's important what you choose. Let's go on how it works, how mindfulness works. Okay, to know how mindfulness works, we need to know how we work. And here for stress reduction, but stress was okay. It was our emergency mode. So it was normal reaction. It could be as activation from by itself to activation. It was a resolution with a lion, or you flight or fight. And if after that we're still alive, that was good. Okay, then rest and recovery and celebrate and feed and breathe and digest and whatever it let you do. So we are made short episodes of violence in which we die or we are successful. And we have to play with that cards. However, today is completely different because our threats don't disappear. We are permanently activated by numerous demands that we perceive sometimes exceeding our resources, like the bank mortgage, the family issues, the management, the work demand, the social dialogue or the lack of social dialogue, the traffic jam, the health, no Wi-Fi, the washing machine is broken, along, etc. So today we accumulate all that activations, one activation over another, until we are exhausted and overwhelmed. And to avoid chronic stress, we have to return to normal as soon as possible. That's where mindfulness is helping us. We need to switch to the parasympathetic system again, or there with mindfulness. It is proved that several minutes paying attention to your breath in a certain way stops the sympathetic and switch to the parasympathetic. It's something that it happens because it's how we're made. Also with breathing techniques or the Herman coherence that my friend Ellen Becker does at Eurocontrol at Maastricht, or yoga. We have many tools to switch this nervous system from one to another, or eliminating or changing our perception of a threat. And that's what the cognitive behavior tools we learn are for. I can stop my body, I can return to vessel, but we have to avoid engaging again with the same problem, the same thoughts. And the most popular is the cheating the body to think we fought and won. It's like doing sport. Remember all that chemistry of stress? Well, when you run or when you fight, your body produces another chemistry that neutralizes the stress one. So turns to basal spontaneously. We cannot leave running like Forrest Gump. So it is important. You can run, you can do exercise, of course, but you need to learn how to change your perception of the threat, because otherwise you're going to be engaging again and again. So you have to leave running. And at certain age, like mine, I cannot do that. So I need another tool. Okay, you cannot stop the waves, John Kabat-Zinn say, but you can learn how to surf. Okay, it's to learn how to take it less personal in your life. Mindfulness benefits, according to scientific literature. Brain is neuroplastic. Okay, that means that it is growing and changing and modeling. And it means that brain specializes on anything you do. So if you are being stressed and aggressive all the time, your brain is going to dedicate more resources and wider connections to anger, more receptors for that chemicals of cortisol and so, and you are going to get more upset faster and with less spur in a glimpse. So you're going to be a master of the dark side. Likewise, the brain will start to abandon or dismantle the nets it doesn't use. So you're gonna be less able to think, or less able to feel empathy, or less able for the social or any other thing, or your memory, because you're not using it for your survival. And the opposite, if you train mindfulness, you'll become less reactive. And ironically, you'll have to deal with less anger to manage. So you receive less problems. Okay? It was demonstrated by many studies conducted at Harvard University and Massachusetts Hospital by Saralatha and Hochschild and so on, that an 8-week program, mindfulness-based reaction program, could actually change the brain. They observed that the thickening of the prefrontal cortex occurred, and also a significant increase in the gray matter density and the hippocampus, the area related to memory, learning, self-awareness, and empathy. and at the same time, a decrease in amygdala density. So it really changes your brain in 8 weeks, okay? It increases focus, enhancing visual attention processing, and increases emotional intelligence, reduces stress and anxiety, reduces fatigue. And Davidson studies demonstrated that improves immune response, okay? Also reduces rumination, the obsessive thinking, and relapses into depression, okay? So that's what the literature says. Here we have you see a brain where the activity is. Okay, this is the functional magnetic resonance imaging or functional MRI. It measures brain activity by detecting the blood flow. So this technique relies on the fact that the blood is where you are using the neuronal activation are coupled. So we can observe the activity going on live. And this is the brain of someone stressed with toxic stress. Okay, actually this image is showing a healthy functioning brain and a traumatic stress one, not punctually stressed, but traumatically stressed one. So it's always in that shape. In ATM, what have we done here in Barcelona? After becoming an instructor myself, I saw very clear application of mindfulness among my colleagues, because they were like I was, especially given the stress and fatigue report by 373 regulation. So I propose a full implementation project within the organization. It is important to note here that the managers and trust vision, some managers and trust and vision have made this initiative possible and think of during times at the company. Showing trust and kindness is a powerful engine for transformation. So on to Cesar, that which is Cesar's. Okay, United's been a pioneer here worldwide. I mean, as far as I know, it's the first time that a provider offers a complete 8 weeks program to the staff. There's no similar study. Especially thanks to Alberto, our safety division expert, that was fundamental to make it possible inside the organization. With very complex paperwork and so on, and added a great value by measuring the potential operative effect of the program. Okay, we did a full program with 56 volunteers, getting a very diverse sample. It was a route tower approach, men and women, same, they were young and not that young, management from the union, some were familiar, some were curious about it. We divided them into groups and we compared the results. Of one was the control group, so we was waiting until the other one finished. So we could compare both groups while one was doing the program and the other was waiting. Okay, we saw a 65 decrease in stress symptomatology in the first group. That's amazing. And an additional 9% found 3 months after, despite COVID-19. So it lasts. It really is a program that it really brings some deep changes. So it lasts in time, despite COVID-19. Okay, strongest reductions were in memory, sensitivity, anxiety, irritability, and anger, sadness feeling, concentration problems, and tension and exhaustion. So, and the results were consistent with that it's I showed you at the slide before. And also high commitment and adherence, because everybody came on their free time. The organization, I'm going to run a little bit here because yes, if not, it's going to kill me. There is a lot of literature about this. As you can see here, the indirect cost to the UK of mental ill health and unemployment is estimated between 70 and 100 billion pounds. And the Transport for London, they offer in 2014 mindfulness combined with cognitive therapy, and they had a 71% reduction in days off or stress. So for the organization, there's also a benefit. Okay, don't forget other aspects in our organization, like health and absenteeism and so on. For everyone. I mean, our purpose here is to respond to life, as I said, instead of reacting. Okay, mindfulness practice and emotional regulation allows you to give your best version under any circumstances. It's your response ability what we develop here. And there is a curious thing. I mean, a lot of elite athletes and sportmen do mindfulness now. And why? Because your maximum performance will be your maximum potential acquired by training, personal skills, your fitness, and so on. But that's changing over time. So to maintain your maximum performance, you need to do something, because your potential, we have seen that it varies from one day to another. So if we remove the interferences here, all the interferences come from the default mode, the ego, the story we tell about what's happening, the anger, frustration. You see here, Toto Wolff made Mercedes. Now they are, it's the 5th year, I think they win the World Series. They do mindfulness. They all do mindfulness. And he was surprised to see that even those engineers who felt meditation was a nonsense, they engaged with it, and it worked for them. Okay, and also Jordans and Rafa Nadal or Phil Jackson and so on. We're finishing here, don't worry. This is for pilots especially. It's an inspiring story. This Carl Eason is an Airbus 300 captain with more than 15 hours, I think it's now, but well, it says 10 in the article. He was grounded for a year. He was trying with psychologists and so on, and after nine months, nothing happened, and until he found his way to meditation. And just, he says 20 minutes. Our standard recommendation is 40 minutes a day. The program is just 2 hours with a teacher, but you need to practice at least 40 minutes a day, every day, or 6 days a week, okay? But the important thing is that after 1 month, anxiety level was 0, okay? He was very worried about having antidepressants and so on, because that means to be grounded. Okay? So it enhances his anxiety. When he found this, he tried to warn the airline about the situation of many more colleagues and spread his experience, but no one wanted to talk about it, like pretending the problem not even exists. There is a 2015 study done over almost 3,500 pilots in the US, indicating that the 13.5% of them were at the threshold of depression, and a 4% report having suicidal thoughts within prior 2 weeks. I don't want to imagine that study now with this COVID situation for pilots. That study should have been a wake-up call, like the human wings was. The ATM industry is very old-fashioned in this, and that's why I'm grateful to our management vision in some of them, and in this case, because I think it's the way to the future. Well, he founded this Mindful Navigator web, and there is also another guy called Matt McNeil. He's a commercial pilot and mental health professional, and he started an organization called Lift Effect. So you have a lot of resources in the web. What can you do? The first thing is, don't believe me. Try it by yourself. Don't believe me or any other. Just try it. Try more than one program. Try different instructors. Look for what better suits you. Choose 35 program or instructor, better 35 by INTA or any serious international association, because otherwise it can be frustrating. If you are really in need of it, can be frustrating. Okay, standards are now at Massachusetts and Brown University in the US, And there is a strong implementation in the United Kingdom. So you can find a lot of information in the National Health Service web, or Mindful Nation papers I saw you at first, or the all-party parliamentary group on mindfulness, or whatever. Okay, the programs on emotions, compassion, mindful eating, mindful parenting, mindful running. But if your problem is stress, my recommendation is mindfulness-based stress reduction, because it's meant for it. Or if you have more serious issues, like depression or post-traumatic stress, maybe mindfulness-based cognitive therapy may suit you. It's important to say that it doesn't replace any professional help, like your psychologist. So if you have one, carry on with it and ask for his opinion, okay? My experience is that you can change things around you. Start small, from individual to collective. The stress is very selfish, so be kind to others. And it is proof that it's the healthiest emotion for you, okay? I've seen along these years that the idea of the super pilot or the super controller is a burden that we carry. The super controller is not one that can deal with the balance in one day, but the one who knows his or her limits and don't hesitate in asking or accepting help or a handover for the good of the operation. So recognize your vulnerability. Recognizing your vulnerability makes you much stronger. You to the team, because you're not going to break accidentally, okay? And you become also a better team player. I have to highlight the importance of the team now. The ability to tame your inner judgmental voice and your ego. I request help and support in the wider sense of help in a humble way. Because it's demonstrated that they need to recognize grief or loss, also in the team, and a certain mourning period. And it's okay, and this could be, it's absurd to deny it. So it's affecting all of us. And it's good to know, because it's situational awareness to know where we are, okay? So these days, I've learned in the upstream that it is essential, an extra dose of care and attention to each other and to the operation. And it's a stress reliever too. And that's all. Just a warning, like in the mindfulness is not the cure to everything. It does not replace any professional medical help. And stress reduction programs should not be used as an excuse to avoid addressing the stressors at the workplace. Okay? Although it is always going to help you protecting from toxic management or find your way out of a toxic situation. But it shouldn't be used as an excuse for the tick in the box policy. And that's all. Forgive me, Jess, I'm 5 or 10 minutes out of my schedule, but it was worth it.
That's no problem. Thank you very much, David. That was really good. So we've got some questions in already. One from Tom Harrison. He says, mindfulness sounds like a powerful tool. Why do you think it isn't being used more in our industry?
Pardon, say again, yes? It seems to be a
powerful tool.
A powerful tool, yes, it is.
And why are we not using it more?
As I say, for pilots especially, and also controllers, but mindfulness allows you to your attention and to focus, and allows you to be in contact, to know what is happening inside you, not being aware as I was, but being in contact. So you can read the signals of your body and of your emotions. You can read your instruments there. It's like the flight management system for you. It's informing you of how you are and how you what you can count on. So it's very important. It's your situation, your personal situational awareness to know what you can do and what not, and how are you feeling the things. If you are perceiving a threat, is there really a threat, or is just your ego? Is that you want to be true, that you want to have the reason? I don't know. It's your flight management system to fly in life.
Thank you. So we had a question as well from Luis on a similar topic. He says the concept seems to be based on the individual and them having an interest in it. How can we encourage our employers, organisations to enable it? You can't really do it on your own, or can you?
As I said in this one, start small. I mean, you can change things around you, but start small. You are a peer among the others, and the best proof for you and the others is to see if it works for you. So that's why I say, don't believe me, just try many programs, try instructors, try whatever, because the best proof for you and the others is to see if it works for you, so you can embody what you say, and you can talk to your colleagues' language. So if the others see you, it begins to generate illusion and curiosity, and and it's very important, that illusion and motivation, because it requires some discipline to maintain the practice, but others can get on it if they see you. I mean, so start by yourself, and that's it.
We discussed online, David. Sorry, we discussed offline previously about the number of books on mindfulness that exist. I think I found 50,000 hits on Amazon if you put in mindfulness as a search. Can you, other than the programs you've spoken about, is there other resources that you can recommend for people that want to find this kind of thing?
Yes. You in UK, you're very lucky because you have this Mindfulness project, and they have done several publications. One is called Mindful Nation in 2015, and in 2016 they released Mindfulness at the Workplace. It's the all-party parliamentary group is doing that, and it's very, very well done. I mean, they really spend time and resources on getting a bunch of experts to investigate. So you can find a lot of good information there. Also in your National Health Service web and in this Mindfulness Nation web, they even offer a course, I think, online thing. Well, I can send you just some bibliography if you want to recommend, and some links you can check in the internet, so you can share with the participants. But as general advice, just try to do 35 programs: mindfulness-based stress reduction or cognitive therapy, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. And these are the labels. Now, this IMTA, or the University of Massachusetts, or Brown, or in Oxford, I think there are some people. And well, but it's important that, because this is a formal program, and you can reply the same in Tokyo or in London or in Madrid. So it is important that is the program as it's meant to be, with a good trainer, with a good instructor, and respecting because it is proof it works. And it's also of a dose, like with the ibuprofen. It's a matter of dose. 5 minutes mindfulness may be pleasant, but it's not going to produce the changes in the brain we have seen. That's with 40 minutes a day along 8 weeks, you know?
Thank you. We've had a question from John Freeman, and a couple of other people have also alluded to the same question. We seem in this industry to have accepted SISM as a thing which is useful and valuable, and employers seem to embrace it as well. His question is, the issue of mental health seems to be different. There's a reluctance for people to admit they have a problem. And I think part of that maybe comes from the fallout from the Germanwings crash from a few years ago. How do we make mental health more acceptable in an industry which historically hasn't dealt with it particularly well, maybe.
Yeah, you're absolutely right here, and this is the case of the pilot I saw you. This guy, this Carl Edson. He tried to warn the airline about the situation of many colleagues. Sorry about that. Of many colleagues, and he had no answer from the airline, no answer from the union, and from the federal authorities. No one wanted to talk about it, like if the problem didn't exist. The thing with the critical incident stress management that you think you have said you like, and I do. I was a coordinator at Barcelona, and it works. It works, but they accepted it because he's in the regulation. He's in the 373 regulation. It's a requirement they have to fulfill. Not with mindfulness. What can I say? That's why I was grateful to the flexibility or vision of Santi Cortez or of Arias, Angel Luis Arias in our organization, or Lupe is our human factors expert there in the headquarters. I cannot give you the solution, but again, start small, try it, and as you begin to share with others, and it begins to gain more followers, we can say, or more people doing it, and you can test. We have tested it. I mean, in a very scientific way. We did it absolutely blind with all the safety and protection data, and without manipulating the data anyway. And we tested the results. So we saw this 65% in decrease in the stress symptoms, and it's a lot, really. They were giving punctuations about 80% or 93% of discomfort, and they ended with less than 40%, which is less than the average Spaniard. So test it. You propose a pilot to do something. Just test it small and share the data with the management. They may find it interesting, or if not, just do it for yourself and your colleagues. It's going to work anyway.
Thank you. We had a question from Jules Ogilvie in Switzerland. What are your opinions on continuous traumatic stress disorder? Which is quite an apt question at the moment, given the COVID situation. He's gone on to say, this may explain what ATCOs and pilots are experiencing regarding the current crisis, as we are all experiencing a form of trauma over which we have no control over a sustained period of time.
Absolutely. For controllers, it's been tough, but especially for pilots, I don't want to imagine really the uncertainty and the fear they must be experiencing now. Sorry, I have too much light in here. For post-traumatic stress is not just stress. I mean, it's quite more serious than just stress. The stress, we have a lot of grades, a lot of levels of stress, from light to moderate, strong, and chronic. But post-traumatic stress has implications. And for post-traumatic stress, I would recommend you the mindfulness-based cognitive therapy with a professional, also a psychologist. There are many psychologists that do these mindfulness-based training. So post-traumatic stress implies a completely different brain pattern, and it's not as easy to solve like the normal stress we have. But anyway, it works, this mindfulness on post-traumatic. For pilots, I can tell you that this program was meant to help people in a hospital, people having serious issues with cancer, with terrible diseases, and illness, and also the doctors taking care of them, and the nurse and personnel, and also the familiars, the people taking care of the ill person, and all kind of suffering among them. Also the emotional suffering and the physical pain, and to helping all of them to deal with the situation, because it may help you to rethink the things. I think it was Einstein, the one who said, no can be solved in the same consciousness that it was created. You need to rise up and find a new perspective to find a solution. And the situation is awful, that of any doubt. But if you can stop your body reacting, if you can stop your anxious reaction and focus on what you can do, it's going to help a lot to your well-being daily, and that's something. You're not going to be dragged by that anxiety and depression inputs. But this can be, you have to deal with a professional help if you think you're having post-traumatic stress or serious issues with that.
Thank you, David. If I can add a little bit to that, for those who've not heard of it, continuous traumatic stress disorder was first sort of described in the mid-80s. It came from studies of people who've been affected by apartheid in South Africa. And it's where someone is experiencing a traumatic situation, but over a prolonged period. And I've had a comment as well from Anya Dring saying that this is something that, backs up what David says, that, specialised and effective therapy is required for this kind of situation. Excuse me. I had a question as well from Kira in Ireland as well about how do we deal with this situation we currently have, which is unusual for controllers and probably for pilots as well, in that we are suffering from a prolonged period of underload and dealing with that boredom and the stress that causes. Any thoughts on that, David?
Yeah, of course. This known syndrome for controllers and pilots, the boredom, is very harmful also, because that's what I say in one of these slides now, is the risk of slackness in the on the job, no? On the position. With this training, you master your attention, so it is really easier to focus without the big effort, and you can stay calm. You must think that we train for 40 minutes a day at first, but in the 6th week, I have my trainees like 6 hours meditating. And they feel that was impossible. The first day when they come and I tell them they have to meditate 45 minutes, they say, I don't have 45 minutes. If I had 45 minutes, I wouldn't be here. And I say, okay, don't worry about it. We'll see. So in the 6th week of this training, we can spend a whole day meditating and nothing happens. So if you are trained to be sat down, observing your breath and your thoughts and your feelings, and nothing happens, and you feel well, of course you can be in front of a screen with not that much traffic. The point is how you achieve that. The point is if the lack of traffic brings some thoughts about your future, the actual situation, your economical problems, what's going to happen with me. That's the problem. Not just being sat down there breathing. Because if you can manage that, it's nothing bad really in itself.
Thank you. Lots of comments from participants about the stigma of talking about mental health. So how do we do we think employers are doing enough, and how do we encourage them to do more?
Definitely. We've been looking at this part of the management, but not everywhere is the same, and not even here. That was unthinkable years ago. Management doesn't want to hear about any problem, and definitely not mental problems in our professions. And that's the problem, because we are humans. And as these guys said, no, as these pilots said, he had to get out of the closet of meditation to be the poster guy, to be an example, and that's it, because the management didn't want to know about it. Recognizing your vulnerability is the main thing, because it is a starting point to solve things out. Otherwise, it's just to put the things under the carpet, and the problem increases, because the super controller and the super pilot, I say, is a burden. I've been 2 months with my friends, my colleagues at the control center, giving them a course on this on stress, TRM, and it arised as a strong feeling among the staff that the burden it was to be that cold super controller. They wanted to be affected by the things. They wanted to be affected by COVID. They wanted to be not in good fitness. They wanted to rely on the team to look after them too. So it would be very wise in any organization to put light on this human condition, because how we are made, and it's when we give the best of ourselves, when we can be true. So it would be very wise. I think it's a matter of time, and I think we have to do more studies like the one we have done on ATM. And it would be very nice to do in a company, in an airline. It would be very nice to do a study. Just take 50 pilots, a diverse sample, and do the program with them. And let's see what they report. Let's see what also the numbers report. Because we made also an operational test, and we found to be increased all the TRM skills related to teamwork, situational awareness, decision making. So it's very good for all of that. And in our professions, is basic to master our minds, because our natural emergency mode is absolutely against the way we have to behave in a real emergency. We have to keep in control. So we cannot be dragged by the emotion. This actually is the best program we can do for. So just test it, do studies, give real proofs to the management. It's not gonna come from them probably, but you can do it and you can show, and they will decide if it's worth it or not. I have shown you this transport for London, or this UK health service. It was money there. It was 70 or 100 billion pounds. So it really worth it.
Thank you. We're into the last 5 minutes, so I'll just two more quick questions. It seems from my experience that a lot of these things will only get introduced by employers once they become mandated. Do you think that's the way that we have to go to make this more widely accepted?
Well, yeah, we cannot do anything on the regulations, but certainly critical incident stress management came with a regulation, with the 373. Mindfulness not yet, but there are a lot of requirements that this training can fulfill. So if you are able to demonstrate that it really helps on fulfilling these requirements of the 373 on health, on stress prevention, you've seen that the program 3 months after was effective, and they gain an extra 9% of discomfort decreased. No? So it's the right program. These or any other similar programs are the right approach. And if you can demonstrate that, of course, if it's not mandatory by regulation, it should come from the staff or someone close to the staff. I mean, like this human factors department or safety. We did it through safety because they are very concerned about that. And they demonstrated that it enhances safety. So it is a safety recommended practice. But yes, mandatory, it should come from the staff, probably, yes.
Yeah, hopefully we won't need another Germanwings type incident to make this sort of thing get pushed. The final question is from Mike. I assume that's Mike Thrower. As a long-haul pilot, you fly with the same person infrequently and probably never before. And this goes back to your first slide, I think. How do you tell if that person is behaving normally or is slightly compromised by outside pressures and being affected by the situation?
Thing. I don't know. I was lucky that my colleague brought up the problem. And I wasn't performed wrongly. Well, that's what he said. Maybe very kind to me. Maybe I was doing it wrong. I don't know. The point is that stress is very, very harmful because you don't realize stress. You don't realize. You think, you feel you are doing the right thing. You are a human being. You are taking care of all of it. You are taking care of your children, of your work, of your hobbies, of your friends, of your sport, of your everything. So you think you're doing the right thing. And you are not aware that draining your energy and so. Of course, when 20 or 30, it's not a problem. But with 40 something, it begins to be a problem because you have not that much energy and your body begins to be wasted. So I believe in a cockpit is more difficult, yes. So because we know we always work together, but in a cockpit maybe it's more difficult because you don't know the person beside you. So that's another reason for them to be their own observers. So it's another reason to implement it in aviation, to give the pilots the tool to watch not just FMS on the plane, but their internal FMS, to be aware of their condition, because that's paramount for the operation, for the safety of all of them, including both pilot and co-pilot.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody. Sorry, I'd like to thank on behalf of GATCO and BALPA, David, for a fantastic presentation. Thank you very much. It was really good. I'd like to thank everybody who's attended and joined in and asked questions, participating. And thanks to Luis and Tom for helping with the stuff in the background. We hope you can join us for the next session, which is the 23rd of November, 10 a.m. and is on the topic of innovation. And we'll be welcoming David Tate, the CAA's Head of Innovation, as our guest presenter. And then the last one on the 30th of November, we'll have a panel of experts from across the industry discussing the post-Brexit COVID aviation landscape. And we really hope you can join us for both of those events. In the meantime, thank you very much and goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you very much, you all, and I hope that was interesting for you. I did my best anyway. Thank you all.